Hey everyone, I'm Ace of Clay. Welcome to another video. Today I'm making a post-apocalyptic scarecrow. This seems to be number 3 in my scarecrow series, and I kind of don't want to stop. I'm really enjoying these guys. There's just something about this dystopian, abandoned vibe that I just love so much. This week I'm pulling out all the stops and I'm making what I think is my most unconventional scarecrow design yet. This guy has so many textures. I'm sculpting different materials, and I use some new techniques that I'm really excited for you to see. And before we get started, I want to show you my brand new plush, the Grim Reaper. This little guy is 8.5 inches tall. He's got his little scythe, all the details are embroidered. He's got long flowing black robes, and the hood is removable. He is available for pre-order right now at aceofclay.com. He'll ship early October. I'm thinking the first week of October. I really hope you like this guy. I honestly think he is my best plush yet. He is super high quality, just like all of the plushes I've released so far, and I really hope you love him as much as I do. So head on over to aceofclay.com and grab him before he's gone. And now, without further ado, let's make this post-apocalyptic scarecrow. Alright, for the first step, I drilled a hole in my wooden base to hold my 5-gauge armature wire that's going to be the main post for our scarecrow. Now I'm attaching the 2 side posts that'll be the arms, and then a third piece of wire to hold the head. Once all the wires are in place, I'm just brushing on some bacon bond so I can start bulking out the torso with some ultralight. After shaping out the torso and bending the wire into its final position, it's time to bake this. After baking, I'm covering it in my final layer of clay, and then I can start shaping out the details. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is not going to be your typical scarecrow. I'm going for something that feels desperate, like someone in this ruined world we're in threw it together using whatever they had. The main body that I'm sculpting now is going to be a trash bag. It's going to make up the entire torso, and then it's going to stretch along part of the scarecrow's arms. And here I'm just using my super poker to put indents in where I'm going to put some wire that's going to be holding this trash bag on. At this stage, I'm sculpting the stretched and sagging plastic that sits between the wires I'll be adding later. This is where the trash bag look really starts to come to life. I use thin snakes of clay to build up the folds, creases, and tension points. Basically all those spots where cheap plastic starts to pull, bunch, and warp under weight. I layer them in one by one, pressing and blending them into the surface to make it feel like the material is fighting to hold itself together. The goal is to exaggerate that flimsy, stretched, too thin texture, like this bag was overstuffed, left out in the sun, and it's like barely holding on. So these little details are what will really sell that illusion and push that eerie post-apocalyptic feel. My rubber shaper does a great job creating these creases in the plastic like this, and then I can go in and I can refine them later with my super poker. Next, I'm moving on to the main torso area, and I'll basically do the same thing I did on the arm, building up all those stretched plastic textures using snakes of clay. The difference here is that the stretches will happen across a much larger plane. Since it's the torso, I'll make sure all the wrinkles and folds are going in the same direction, almost like the entire bag was yanked tight before being tied off. I'll lay the snakes of clay down with that flow in mind to create a sense of tension, like the bag is straining under the weight of whatever's stuffed inside. That consistent direction is really going to help sell the realism. After getting some larger bulges on there with my snakes of clay, I'm just using my super poker to refine them and create a bunch of little tiny wrinkles. Now right here is where I want to add some more wires, wrapping this guy together. So I'm just going to create a large indent down the middle here, and then we are going to completely redo those wrinkles on the bottom half and make them go the other direction. Really want to make this look like the bag is tightly bound and twisted in every direction. And I'm just repeating the same process that I did up top, except all the lines are going in the opposite direction. And I'm using my spoon tool, of course, to smooth out and blend in all those wrinkles. And I do sell the spoon tool on my website, aceofclay.com, if you want to grab one for yourself. It comes in silver and black. Once all the wrinkles are in place, it's time to add the wires that bind the torso together. I'm imagining these as like old extension cords, something you'd scavenge in a world that's long since fallen apart. I kind of feel like these cords are going to add a whole new layer of story, like this figure is being held together by scraps of the past. I really love how this wire just finishes off that arm there. It looks like it really is tightly bound. Using some flexible clay, I'm going to create the excess plastic that's going to be where the bottom of the torso is all gathered together. And we're going to finish it off with another extension cord. Now, taking a little inspiration from my Nemesis sculpture I made a couple months ago, I'm going to create a couple big, deep seams that are going to be held together with some staples. This large area really needed something extra, and I think this did the trick. And now it's time to pre-bake. And then while that's baking, let's go ahead and sculpt the head. The head is going to be an old-fashioned gas mask. For the gas mask, I want it to look like it's made of old, worn leather, something that's been sitting out in the elements for years. After I figure out the general shape and structure, I start adding in some subtle folds and lumps to give it texture, and then of course, some seams. These little imperfections go a long way. They make the surface feel soft and aged, like the material has dried out and warped over time. I'm not going for anything smooth or polished here. I want it to feel used, almost rotting, but still functional enough to wear. The more uneven it is, the more believable it'll look as old leather. And after popping on the eye lenses, it's really starting to come together. And how about a nice deep cut right there? And let's shatter one of the lenses. And we're going to finish the lenses off with a little lip. Now, to support the filter canister that I'll be adding, I'm using a piece of wire, then I'm adding the connector piece like so, and then we're going to embellish things a little bit with a little bit of piping, and then we can pop on that canister. And using this tiny ball stylus, I'm going to create some vent holes. And let's add some more, I guess, decorative piping around the edges here. And there we go, not too shabby. Now we're going to take a quick detour and I'm going to create a biohazard sign that's going to go on that main post behind his head. After cutting out the sign, I'm using it as a template to shape the clay. This gives me a super clean, consistent base to work from, especially since I want the edges and proportions to be as close to exact as possible. Just lay the paper over the clay, cut it out, and then refine things a little bit. And then I will bake this without the paper, completely flat on a sheet of oven-safe glass. In the meantime, I'm just going to sculpt some wooden boards over my wire here, just adding my clay and then texturing it to look like wood. We're going to take a quick break from our video to talk about our sponsor, BetterHelp. Lately, I've been reflecting on where I am in my life and where I thought I would be. I used to picture a very specific path where my career would be, where I would be creatively, how balanced things would be personally. But life always has a way of throwing you curveballs, and navigating those changes has been a lot harder than I expected. I've had moments where I've just felt stuck creatively, emotionally, mentally, and during those times it really hit me that I was carrying too much in my head and not really enough support in my corner. And that's when I started thinking about therapy. Not as some big dramatic move, but just a way to get clearer and more grounded, and just better at handling life when it feels messy. A therapist can help you do exactly that. They'll listen, they'll ask thoughtful questions, and just help you see things from different perspectives. They can also give you tools and techniques to help you make meaningful changes. BetterHelp is sponsoring this video, and they're on a mission to make starting therapy easier. All you have to do is fill out a quick questionnaire and you'll get matched with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. And if it's not the right fit, you can switch to a new therapist at any time for no extra cost. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust and one that I have personally used. Just go to betterhelp.com/aceofclay. That's better, H-E-L-P. And if you go through this link, you'll get 10% off your first month. Thanks again, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this video. Now back to our sculpture. I want there to be a big hose coming off the back of the mask, so before I do that I need to finish the arm because I want the hose to wrap around this arm loosely. Using some 16 gauge wire, I'm figuring out the length and shape of the hose. Once that's figured out, I straightened it out and I am embedding it into a flexible snake of clay. I'm just pressing it in to the center and then rolling it so it's nice and secure inside. And to texture it, I'm just rolling the tip of my super poker all over the place. And to attach, I'm just sticking it into that hole that I made earlier, and we're going to bend it into place. That looks pretty good. Definitely creates another level of interest. Now we're going to take a quick break from the scarecrow and finish up that sign. Once that clay is baked, I'm going to Mod Podge my design on top of it, adding Mod Podge to the back of the paper and the clay, lining them up nicely. And then we're going to brush another layer of Mod Podge over the top, like so. Really embed that paper on the clay. And then we just got to finish off the rest of our body here while that sign dries. And I'm just going to add a little more texture to that gas mask with this little sponge thing. And that's how it's going to look with the sign. I like it. And of course I needed more signs after that, so we're going to make 4 more, the same way as the first one. I printed them out in 2 different sizes just so I could mix and match. And yes, I drew all of these in Photoshop by myself. Now, since there isn't enough room on the main post to hold all the signs I want to include, I'm going to improvise a bit. I drill a few diagonal holes into the base and insert wooden skewers into them. These will act like extra arms branching out from the base itself. Each skewer will hold 2 signs, giving me way more surface area to work with and creating this chaotic, cluttered look, like someone just kept adding warnings over time. Now, after adding that sheet of clay to my base here, I'm just texturing it with my cheap Michaels texture roller thing in every direction to make it look like dirt. And once that base is done, we got to stick our scarecrow back on, and then of course make that main post look like wood. once that's done, we can stick his head back on. Now let's poke in our signposts. Got one in the front and one in the back. Just trying to figure out how tall to make them, and then what sign's gonna go where. And then to finish them off, I'm gonna brush on a thick layer of Bacon Bond. This is going to give them a nice smooth surface, and there won't be any grain from the skewers showing. And we're gonna bake it one more time. And then while it's baking, let's finish up our signs. We got a radioactive sign here. We've got a biohazard one. This is going to be a really dangerous place. Once everything's baked, it's time to paint. I'm going to start with this nice matte black primer coat all over everything. The brand of paint I'm using is Kaleido. It is Gallery's line of airbrush paints. They are amazing. Gallery also makes the airbrush I am using. I love these paints because I don't have to thin them. They just work right out of the bottle. And I honestly could not recommend Gallery's products more. You can use my code aceofclay at gallery.com to save 10%. After the primers dry on the gas mask, I'm going to go in with a nice dark green shade. Now I'm following up my dark green with a lighter green that I'm focusing on the top center of the mask. After finishing airbrushing, it's time to bust out the paint brushes. I'm going to start by painting the wood everywhere. I'm sort of dry brushing this brown color on the surface, being sure not to get any brown into those wood grain lines that I created. Now to make this look like a garbage bag, I'm using some watered down Americana triple thick glossy varnish. This really makes it look like cheap plastic. It's super shiny. While that varnish dries, we're going to go in and add some bronze details to our gas mask. Dry brushing metallics like this really creates the look of old metal peeking out underneath paint. Now let's paint up those lenses pure black. Now I'm going to go into all of the nooks and crannies with a black wash. I really want to focus in on those seams. And we're going to add some triple thick to the lenses to make them nice and shiny before we dirty them up. Now for a brown wash here and there. Now back to the body. That black plastic looks a little too new, so we definitely got to dirty it up quite a bit. I'm going in with some matte brown. And then back to the gas mask. Let's dirty up those lenses with some light brown dry brushing, and then get some dry brushing all over the leather part too. And we can't forget the hose. Now for the wires, I'm gonna paint the wires on his arm dark green. And then the ones on the torso are gonna be bright orange, just like an extension cord. To paint the staples, I'm using my Gallery metallic paint markers. Now let's just kiss those signposts with a little bit of green. All right, we're getting closer. Let's pop the head back on and get that hose positioned. To finish up the signs, I'm going to paint the edges black and the back. And then we're going to dirty them up like crazy with this lovely brown wash. This is my favorite part of the whole sculpture, I swear. I love dirtying things up like this. Now I have just enough super glue left to attach all my signs. Let's start with this one. Doesn't that look cool? I really love the pop of yellow against all the dull colors of the scarecrow. And then using my metallic paint markers here, I'm just adding a little bit of silver around the edges of each sign, like the metal's peeking through under the paint. And let's get them all stuck on. There we go, the last one is on. Now say it with me. And it's done! My post-apocalyptic scarecrow is complete. Let me know how you think I did in the comments. Out of all three scarecrows I've made so far, he is 100% my favorite. I love all the different textures that I was able to incorporate, like that plastic garbage bag right there. I love the leathery, old looking gas mask. And of course, I think these signs really set it off. I think that was a really cool addition. And I love that hose. All in all, I'm really proud of this guy and I really hope you like him too. Again, let me know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to pre-order your Grim Reaper plush at aceofclay.com. And as always, thank you so much for watching and being here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check me out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at aceofclay. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.